Feeler, feeler. Hey, there we go. Mr. Durisso is in the house. How are you? Let's see if well, you are one of the people I am looking for. Let's see. So looks like it's just you so far, Mr. Jeffrey. Let's give it a minute or so, see if anyone else shows up. All right. Hey, Mike's here. How are you? Let's see. Sorry, this was a little impromptu. You guys can hear me okay? Wonderful. Okay, that's about a 10-second delay. All right. Well, we'll just start for the two of you. I don't have a beautiful pole here or anything to dance to, so we're not going to do a Jotman dance today. This is the TronXY X8 that we're going to be doing for the community build-along here in a few weeks. Once everybody gets confirmation their printers are shipped, those that are participating. So I wanted to take the opportunity to unbox it and try to inventory the parts. And I thought it might be a little bit better to try to do that as a live stream rather than as a pre-recorded video, because it could get a little bit longer. And it's a little bit more fluid that way to do it that way. So let me set the iPad aside over here that I'm trying to watch the chat with. And we will pop the tape. I've already sliced it open, and I just held it closed with a couple of pieces of blue tape here. So let's do that. Let's give you guys the top-down shot there. And oh, hold on. Okay. It's like teasing, the big reveal. Hey, right. Hey, other Jeffrey's here. All right, just in time for the big reel. All right, let's see what's in this bad boy here. I knew it. Box of foam. Oh, that's disappointing. Okay, there's parts underneath. So let us see what we have. We have what looks like 3 sets of end stops here. The lovely roller ball on them. And we have labeled as EZY. I'm guessing there's an X there. These are our stepper motor wires. Beautiful. USB cable. We have tiny bearings in there. Very tiny bearings. Okay, these look to be injection molded. Let me see if I can, I don't want to switch cameras, but let me see if I can hold these up and show you. These look to be the left and right. And there's a bearing there too. Interesting. This look to be the X and the right vertical pieces. We have 2 baggages of hardware here, which we'll set on this side. It'll be a very tightly fitting control board, which is not sealed, but it is indeed cut open. Has a QC passed sticker on it right there. Some interesting 45-degree Euroblock connectors. And it looks like it is a CXY-V1 TronXY.com board. Looks like a fairly standard, there's 4 potentiometers. So it looks like a fairly standard either ramps or Melzi derivative board. There's an SD card right on the board, or SD chip reader and USB on there. 2 LCD headers is what it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stepper drivers. Fan 1, fan 2. So yeah, pretty standard TronXY board. Nothing special. Power, hot end, hotbed, hot end. Tiny little MOSFETs. We have a roll, or a tiny little bit, of black unlabeled filament. I will assume is PLA. My nose is too stuffed up to tell. We have a micro USB with an SD card in it here, and I'm going to assume that has our manual and our parts list, so we're going to set that aside. Have a US power cord here. We have zip ties, belt, and cable wrap. And right now I'm just trying to do a general inspection to see if anything's broken in here yet. Oh, hey, we've got Curtis here too. How you doing, Curtis? And Heather. How are you, Heather? Gosh, we have a house full of mods at the moment. All right, so we have these little tiny pieces. Plexiglass. That style, it looks to be 2. This style, it looks to be 4. They look to be identical. So 2 of those and 2 of those. Or, I'm sorry, 4 of those and 2 of those. We have this H-shaped piece here, which I'm going to guess is going to be for under the bed, and it looks like it already has a little bit of a curve to it, but I will lay that out later and see. More plexiglass pieces, and more foam. We have a pre-soldered heat bed with an aluminum style plate. It looks to be about 5 or 6 millimeters thick with the heater board on the bottom. At least it is pre-soldered for both the thermistor and for the heating elements, so that's good. Don't like that paper tape there, but we'll come back to that. They should be using polyamide tape for that. This paper burns, polyamide doesn't. And the infamous blue sheet, which we'll come back to and discuss at another time. That is like the world's largest piece of jumbo blue tape. All right, so I'm going to leave those back in the foam piece here, and we're going to set this aside. And we are going to get to the, let's see how many layers. Oh, we have 2 more layers. So let's go through this one first. We have a bag with nothing in it that has been ripped open, and it says black D18 B1-103 black, and it is ripped open with nothing in it. So I don't know what that goes to, but I am going to set that aside. In case something is missing, then maybe that will help them track down. We have a bag of small plexiglass pieces here. We have a Phillips screwdriver, a couple of hex keys, a 2mm slotted screwdriver, and a piece of what looks like rough cut PVC. I'm assuming it's for a filament holder, spool holder. Trying to watch. Okay, and all the rest of this is acrylic pieces, so I'm just going to leave those there for now until we pop out and see what it is we'd actually be counting up and inventorying for those. And we'll set those aside over here. We will lift this last piece of foam out of the big box. Give that a little toss and see what we have here. Okay, we have one stepper with a coupler. It has all 4 of its set screws in it. So that's stepper 1. Stepper 2, 4 set screws. Stepper 3, this one has a gear with both of its set screws. This also looks to be a different stepper. Notice the black. The back is black on this one, and it's silver on this one. Let's go back and look at that. First one was black. And there's one more stepper in this side. That's a silver one also. So I don't know what the difference is on these. There you go. Better? iPad off. All right, so 42H4062-23 01705 00-1 04001. So the serial numbers are different, but the part numbers are the same. So I don't know. I don't know what the difference is with these other than what's on them. These two have gears, those two don't, which tell me that these are going to drive the X and the Y axis, and these are going to drive the Z. I don't know if it's just a cosmetic thing or not. So let's see what else we have. We have the new display. Standard rep wrap discount, TronXY.com. It's a standard rep wrap discount smart controller. Now this is funny. It's a 12864. But what's funny here is it is rep wrap D1 SCOUNT. So it's not discount, it's D1 S count. But other than that, it looks like your fairly standard graphics display. And we have one. There's bearings in there. We have 3 pillow blocks with bearings in them already. And we have a brick. A fairly heavy. That is the hot end assembly, which is interesting. It's actually very interesting. And some things I like and don't like already on here. Let me see if I can switch cameras and give you a closer look at this thing. Hang on a second. Okay, so this is the extruder carriage. Forgive the angle, I'm trying to get it off to the side here off this tiny little camera. So these are aluminum, which I like. It's very stiff, very rigid on the spring. It's an old style hot end. I think that's a Mark 8, but I do like that these are aluminum out of the gate. And then it's a 3 bracket, 3 pillow block style. Sorry, I don't have a lot of room to get you a better angle out of that camera. And the stepper motor. But this thing is heavy. So this might be somewhere that we have some leeway to look at playing with, maybe some weight reduction later. Oh, and there is a tensioning spring there at the top so that you can actually set the tension. So I actually do like this extruder design compared to some of the others I've seen, but I don't like that throat on that hot end or how small this heat block is. Or how tightly that thermistor is just taped in there. So something we'll have to take a look at later. All right, so let's set that back aside. We'll go back to that view. Let me check up on the chat here. Yeah, Jeffrey, that is an old Solidudo style setup. I think it's a Mark 8 setup. It's definitely something that we can look at, after the build, doing a mod. 1, 2, 3, 4. And to answer your question about the extruder stepper, I haven't found that one yet. It's okay. So we have a fan with a couple of pieces of hardware and a grill. I do like the fact that they include a metal grill there. That's a detail that a lot of printers leave off. We have 2 ribbon cables for the LCD. They're very long, so hopefully those are not problematic. This is our Y bearing, which does not turn well. That might be something that we also look at changing to. It's in the brick. Okay, we'll look for it in the brick here in a second. It's basically, this is for your bed belt or your Y belt. It's basically just a bearing sandwiched between 2 washers. The bearing does turn, but there's nothing really to keep it from side to side. So that's something we can also, while that'll work, it might be something that we can look at improving. And this looks to be the part cooling fan, standard radial parts blower with a 3D printed piece that looks to be hot glued in. And so that would go like that. Alright, so that's all of the pieces on the outside. Up, we have a knob and a couple of spacers and hardware screws, which I am assuming are all for the LCD. So I'm going to sit those with the LCD. Hey, Jay Flugum, how are you? Yes, direct drive extruder. Okay, this is the power supply. And it is small. Wow. Built for on-off control circuit, fan automatically works according to working temperature. 12 volt, 20 amp. So it is a tiny power supply. It's your kind of your typical Meanwell, but it does have a fan on it, a large fan. It's very thin casing and sticker. Yeah, Curtis, that's probably a good call. Hang on. Let me walk around the camera here. I want to show you something. Okay, this is the stock fan out of a Duplicator i3. Just ignore the wiring there. That's just for something else that I'm experimenting with. But this is also a 12 volt, 20 amp Sampom fan. And you can see the size difference. Same length, but it is a full centimeter, if not more, narrower. Same size fan. I mean, it is tiny. I would almost dare say cute. That's a slight problem there too. Oh, interesting. Let's set this aside. That's the lid that protects the live terminals, the AC, and the other live terminals. And it doesn't open up far enough for you to get access to those terminal blocks. In other words, it doesn't sit back far enough to open it up all the way. So that may be a bit of a challenge. That's something I want to take some pictures of, and so that we can document that. And we'll have to compare with some of the other builders and see what they think. It's missing 4 plugs. Yeah, I don't break those off. Maybe if I'm going to, maybe if I build a cover for it, I might remove that. But I actually have scars on my arm here from, you can't see where I'm standing. I actually have scars on my arm from sticking it inside of an equipment rack full of AV gear, reaching it in and having those live terminals that somebody had broken off that cover on, and me getting thrown about 6 feet out of that rack. So those stay on. I think the only thing that we didn't look at here is rails and rods. So let's see. These are greasy, so I'm not sure how far I want to. Ooh, those are really greasy. Let's just try to get a count of what we have here. So we have 2 what looks to be standard threaded rod, like 1/4 or probably 8mm. We've got, oh great, it just came open. So we have those 2. I imagine that's going to be for the Y frame. And then we have two 8mm Acme rods, or trapezoidal. And then these guys, we've got two long chrome rods and four short chrome rods. And I will wrap all those back up in the oilskin cloth later. So that's all our parts. So oh, stainless or chromed? They're all chromed rods. None of these are stainless. The threaded rod, I'm not sure about. I don't have a magnet handy to test those with. Actually, maybe I do. Hang on. Yep, magnet sticks to rods, so those are steel. They're not stainless. Which is better for rod type? I guess it really depends on the accuracy of the rod and your environment. I've kind of heard people say both ways, but I don't honestly know if there's one is better than the other. So the big question is, I think we have everything in here. I'm going to put this fan back in. We'll set this over here. And I think pretty much all we have left are all the acrylic parts to go through. Make sure that we have everything. So my goal is that if we capture everything here today on the stream live, showing each of the pieces and the quantities, then I can go back later and compare these once I open up the flash drive that came with it. I can compare these to the file that came on the flash drive, and hopefully there is a bill of materials in there. So it looks like we have two pieces for a spool holder. And I'm going to try to set them in groups of matching pieces. Part labeled Y. Two of these guys. Okay. Nothing looks to be cracked or broken, but won't know for certain until we get the paint off or the tape off. Oh, you're already making a list. Perfect. Okay, so we have these two pieces which look to be the front and the back of the X frame. Just doing a visual representation. Based on how and where the holes line up. I'm guessing these two longer ones, well, these are obviously the left and the right sides. There's two of these. And I'm guessing that these are going to be the top, but there's one of each of these pieces. Currently, not counting myself, Heather, we have 3.5 people in the build. We have Pete down in Australia. We have Duo up in the Northwest. We have Jeffrey DeRusso as and a partner working it as a team. And then myself, and then we had one gentleman who I believe canceled out. Jeffrey, you're saying 4. Is there someone that are you counting you and your team as 2 people, or are you counting, or is there another builder that I'm not aware of yet? Back to this. Heather, it is as soon as we get confirmation that everybody that wants to build has their printers shipped, and we can schedule everybody in. I'll probably cap the date on ordering probably the middle of this week. Probably cap the date on ordering maybe the middle of this week or at the very end of this week, because it's going to take a couple of weeks for people to ship their parts out, or to get their printers shipped out. And then once we lock it down and say, okay, no more orders, everybody that has them on order, if we can get the confirmation, sorry, I'm off camera here. Once we get that confirmation that everybody has them shipped and we get the dates on that everybody's supposed to get them received, we'll work at coordinating the build. And depending on the skill level of everybody involved, we'll probably do it as either a single long day session, or we'll break it up over a couple of sessions and do it in pieces, depending on how it feels. That's awesome, Jeffrey. That would be great if we get another one in. The more the merrier, especially if you're going to be helping them out as well, so that we have more experienced builders helping. That is the goal of this thing. I think that's all of the pieces. Was there anything, Jeffrey, that you missed writing down? Oh, Eddie, love to have you on board as well. That is perfect. Yeah, we're probably looking at 2 to 3 weeks out at minimum before we actually do the build. Again, it just depends on when everybody gets things ordered and they get their shipping confirmations. One thing I want to do is, because it's a vastly time-consuming thing, is before the build, I want everybody to go through like we did today, and we'll coordinate. We're going to get the parts list out to make sure everybody has it. I'm not going to sit and do it on a live stream, but I am going to go through these bags of hardware. And did that on purpose. I'm going to go through these bags of hardware, sort it out based on sizes of nuts and bolts to see if we have everything. Everything has a matching, nut and bolt. Awesome. Jay Flugum also, that's great, man. Again, more the merrier. This is going to be fun. I mean, the goal is once we get through it, the build together, I want everybody's feedback as we're doing this. Kind of over the chat, but we're also going to bring possibly a couple people in on a video call, kind of like a video conference, similar to how we did the H2 last spring. So we're going to make it educational for people. We're getting people of different experience levels in, so that we have beginners that are being coached not just by me doing it here, but in the chat and stuff, where we're going to make sure everybody's on the same page. And if we have to, we'll do it over a couple of builds, not just one long session, but we'll do it over a couple of builds so that everybody stays on the same course. And again, part of it is I eventually have to review this thing for GearBest. We all know how GearBest works. When they send you something, they expect a review. But my intention by doing it this way up front is everybody that's involved is going to have feedback. If anybody comes up with missing pieces or broken pieces or just can't get things to calibrate, all of that feedback that's coming from everybody are notes that I can take down and put into my review when this goes back to, goes into a public review and eventually goes back to GearBest. So I think that's I think that's going to be a fair way to try to do a review with them. It definitely absolves any bias because we're all experiencing it together. So, all right, Jeffrey, was there any other pieces that we missed in your documentation there, other than the nuts and bolts? Yeah, and we got tech support too. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to scan through the chat here and make sure that I'm caught up with all the comments. Acrylic part is next to the baggie of hardware. This one? This one here? Or this one here? Nope, that's... I'm not sure what these two are until we get the plants up. I will say that this one and these are thinner acrylic than the main pieces. They all look to be about just under 6 millimeter, 5 millimeter maybe. And then we have these two stacks of parts here. Oh. And then of course all the little fittings that are the caps and other pieces. Okay, so we got all of the pieces, it looks like. Oh, Eddie, that would be great if you bring on your daughter. That would be great. All right, so I'm probably going to wrap this up unless anybody has any questions on what we're doing. I said I will go through and kind of inventory all the... It's something to be said for insanity, but I'm going to go through and probably try to inventory all these nuts and bolts to make sure we're not short of any screws or anything. I will go through the SD card here and we'll go from there. So does anybody else have questions? Did not see any wires from power supply to board though. Good question. Yes, Print 3D channel, Jeffrey. Yes, we are going to put it out as a Google document or something along those lines. Jeffrey, I imagine those are in this bundle here. There's a couple of, or several other fatter wires that are in this bundle with the end stops. So I will separate that out later when I have some zip ties to coil them up, back up. But I do see at least a larger gauge pair of wires here that are probably going from the power supply to the board. And of course we have the US power cord. Yeah, and I'm hoping on the SD card that there's going to be a bill of materials too. So I'm optimistic about that so that we can get that part out as well too. Noob terms. Let's see. Layman's terms, noob terms. Jeff, is the noob terms for you or for Heather? Just want to make sure that we target it right. Yeah, they are standard LM88 bearings in there. I got one named Knobby for the knob for the LCD. The knob for the LCD is in the box that I set aside over there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'm gonna wrap this up. I think we accomplished getting it out of the box and going through the parts. You named it Knobby. So, hey, thanks everyone who watched. Thanks for all of the mods in the chat. I think that's pretty much the entire chat. I will see you guys here again with more updates on the build. And Jeffrey DeRusso, thanks for your help. Later, Curtis, thanks for tuning in. Jeffrey DeRusso, thanks for your help with writing all this down. And we're going to get this out onto the web for everyone. Aloha.